A new whistleblower has emerged to give us the first look into Obama's secret drone wars. And apparently using spotty cell phone data and grainy images to drop bombs from unmanned aircraft a mile in the air in countries we're not at war with is not an exact science. It's like pin the tail on the donkey, like you used to play at birthday parties. You're blindfolded, spun around until you're dizzy, and then asked to hit the target. Except in this case, the tail is a massive bomb, and the target is probably still a f***ing donkey. And the children at the birthday party standing around the donkey are still children at a birthday party standing around a donkey. Why are we okay with this? This is the president's, the Pentagon's, and the CIA's weapon of choice to take out anyone they view as dangerous. And until now, all we knew about how drone targets were selected was that it had something to do with who was hitting on Obama's daughters.
The Jonas brothers are here. Sasha and Malia are huge fans. But boys don't get any ideas. I have two words for you. Predator drones.
And seeing as no one has heard from them in 5 years, I think he did it. Look, every president since Gerald Ford has upheld our country's ban on assassinations. However, Obama and George W. have gotten around that by calling them targeted killings. Yeah, they're just targeted killings. Just like Donald Trump's not an asshole. He's just suffering from a lifelong bout of sphincter of the personality. So how many innocent civilians have been killed in this program? During one 5-month period of the operation, nearly 90% of the people killed in airstrikes were not the intended targets. 90%, 90%. What? This wouldn't be okay in any other walk of life. Let's say you were a doctor and you were removing 90% of the wrong organs. Or you worked at a candy store and 90% of the candy was made of cat piss. You worked at a massage parlor and 90% of your happy endings were very, very sad. No one should be okay with this. But don't take my word for it. As The Intercept reported, Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, former head of the Defense Intelligence Agency, said, "We tended to say drop another bomb via drone, and put out a headline that we killed Abu Bag of Donuts, and it makes us all feel good for 24 hours. And you know what? It doesn't matter. It just made them a martyr. It just created a new reason to fight us even harder." He's right. It doesn't help. You know what else doesn't help? Calling them Abu Bag of Donuts. I mean, do they even have donuts over there? If you're gonna throw racist comments around, maybe at least Abu Bag of Falafel or something indigenous to the area. Much of what The Intercept published was the CIA's own internal study of the drone program. That study lamented relatively few high-level terrorists meet the criteria, and the requirements of low collateral damage reduces targeting opportunities. Basically, this is the CIA lamenting that if we only kill imminent threats, there aren't many people we get to kill. Could you imagine a cop being told, only shoot someone who's endangering your life, and then responding, but that's not many people. Won't I get bored? Plus, a lot of the targeting is based on tracking cell phones and computer signals, which the papers show is incredibly easy to fool. But don't worry, the CIA also uses other visual indicators to aid the establishment of positive identification, including description of clothing or gait. The terror suspect's gait? His f***ing gait. Imagine someone is on death row, and the only footage we have, they're gonna die. The only footage we have is a grainy video from a mile in the sky, and we're like, that looks like the way he normally walks. Electrocute him. And then the next day, the papers say Unabomber, or someone who walks like him, was electrocuted last night, as were 20 collateral damage Cleveland residents who were standing around. Why Are we okay with this? For the sake of argument, let's imagine something far less drastic than assassination. Would you be okay with having sex with someone who had the same gait as your boyfriend? Sorry, baby, I saw that guy also slightly favored his left leg when he walked, and I was like, stick it in, let's do this. I also slept with all the surrounding civilians because, you know, the fog of sex. As David Swanson writes, even the CIA has called their own drone program counterproductive. Former CIA bin Laden unit chief Michael Scheuer said, the more the United States fights terrorism, the more it creates terrorism. General Stanley McChrystal said, for every innocent person you kill, you create 10 new enemies. United States base commander Nicki Minaj said, this be a hot mess. She's all about the base. So, with so much catastrophic failure, what will we do now? The paper reported that drone flights would increase by 50% by 2019. If there's one thing we're good at, it's doubling down on major mistakes. The continued invasion of Afghanistan, the continued destruction of the middle class, the continued production of Paul Blart Mall Cop movies. Now is the time to stand up and say, not in my name, not anymore. Coming to you from Washington, D.C., the belly of the drone industrial complex. This is Redacted Tonight. Welcome to Redacted Tonight. I'm your fearless and feral host, Lee Camp. Now let's take the news from behind. Something big coming out of McDonald's this week, which is a nice change. Normally it's something big coming out of McDonald's customers. But the news is that the McDonald's franchise has been shrinking for the first time in the company's history. One franchise owner even said McDonald's is facing its final days. So this is good news. This is good news, seeing as McDonald's serves food that is horrible for human beings, and they're one of the biggest supporters of factory farming, AKA the cow genocide. That's right. I called it that. But I'm also amazed that anyone is still eating McDonald's. Who is eating? However, I also acknowledge that I live a strange life surrounded by mostly hippie fart lefty tards, and you know that kind of impacts how I think most people are. For example, I am far more shocked if I see someone willingly eating McDonald's than I am if someone tells me they have a ring. If I see someone eating McDonald's, I'm like, oh, God, please tell me that was a drunk mistake. Tell me you paid for that cow cornhole sandwich with regret. Also struggling is our old friend Monsanto. Their shares have dropped 26% this year because it was revealed, that their biggest pesticide, Roundup, causes cancer. Boy, that's a pretty damn effective pesticide. Gets rid of grasshoppers, caterpillars, and your family. Also, many countries are banning Monsanto's GMO products. So two of the world's most evil companies are seriously, they're as big as countries though, but are seriously struggling in no small part thanks to activists and citizen journalists. The mainstream media won't talk about this stuff because they're in the business of making you consume more. Telling you that your pesticides and foods are killing you does not fit with the carnival of illusion and distraction that they pump out. That makes a monster truck rally look like a podcast about macrame. So we turn now to the Sentencing Reform and Corrections Act of 2015, or as I like to call it, the Sentencing Reform and Corrections Act of 2015. I don't have a cute nickname for it, all right? I didn't come up with one. What do you guys need, a cheap laugh every minute? Jesus. This is a very important bill with bipartisan support that is meant to finally tackle the scourge of mass incarceration in our country. So focus, all right? Joining us now to explain more is senior prison reform advocate John F. O'Donnell.
John. What's up, everybody? Hi, Lee.
All right, John.
Good. So they need cheap laughs all the time, do they? I got a cheap laugh for you guys. You want a cheap laugh? Yeah. All right, no problem. Guess what my least favorite type of cake is? Urinal cake. Boom! Cheap laugh. Take it, like it, eat it.
Nailed it. Really shoved that down their throats. All right, but
come
on. Tell us about the new criminal justice reform bill. It sounds pretty promising. This is a big deal.
It is promising. Promising to bring on an apocalyptic end-of-days type scenario where everything's on fire all the time, with people starving in the streets dreaming about eating urinal cake.
What are you talking about?
Lee, among other things, this bill will reduce several mandatory minimums for nonviolent drug offenses and eliminate the 3 strikes you're out life sentences, which to me feels like a real attack on our national pastime. Take me out to the ball game. And it also essentially bans solitary confinement of juveniles. Again, a real attack on our national pastime. Take me out of this cage.
Really? Our national pastime is locking people up.
Yes. For the past 40 years, we've had tough on crime policies that have increased our prison population by 700%. And this costs us over $80 billion a year. Our society has become defined by vengeance, not redemption. It's the biggest moral failing of our time. You really want to ruin that?
Of course I do. Yes, I'm not a sociopath. Why does the Sentencing Reform and Corrections Act freak you out so much?
Because of the unlikely bedfellows, man. It's getting creepy.
Unlikely bedfellows?
Yeah, they're all over the place these days when it comes to prison reform. For example, the bill was proposed by 9 Senate Republicans and Democrats actually working together for 3 years. Gross! And Obama would never admit it, but it's created some unlikely bedfellows.
It's created some unlikely bedfellows. You've got Van Jones and Newt Gingrich. You've got Americans for Tax Reform and the ACLU. You've got the NAACP and the Koch brothers. No, you got to give them credit. You got to call it like you see it.
Yeah, I'll call it like I see it. The unholy union of the NAACP and the Koch brothers shall open up a portal into an alternative dimension of endless despair where all the cake is in fact urinal cake.
You gotta stop with the urinal cake callback.
I'm sorry.
You really do. We're talking about fellow human beings locked up in cages. And this bill is, it's just a start. It only applies to federal prisons, which hold only 9% of Americans who are behind bars. There's a lot more that needs to get done here.
How much more do you want to do, Lee? What sort of zany, broad coalition do you have in mind? You want to, have Newt Gingrich and Cornel West, making out underneath a mangrove tree, agreeing that poverty is the biggest driving force of crime in America? Are you crazy? You're sick. You're a sicko. You're sick in the head.
All right. I love you, too. I love you, too. John F. O'Donnell, everybody. We have to go to a break, but watch this first commercial. It's very important.
Are new luxury condos pricing you out of your working class neighborhood? Are new working class tenants pricing you out of your low income neighborhood? Are new low income tenants pricing you out of your box under a bridge? In 2013, there were 11.2 million severely burned and renter households competing for the 7.3 million units that were affordable to them. And it hasn't gotten much better since. That's why we ask, why rent when you can squat? Squat's going on here. At Squat's Going On Here, our crack team of realtors will, for a small broker's fee, break you into luxury condos in San Francisco, New York, and Los Angeles completely rent-free. These units are already paid for by yuppies, millionaires, and dipshits that are fully furnished but completely unoccupied. You heard me. These megalomaniacs buy apartments the way we buy fish tanks, just to look inside once a month and go, wow. squats going on here?
As a background actor in Los Angeles, the only place I could afford was in the La Brea tar pits. Squats Go helped me move into a Beverly Hills mansion, whose only purpose is to serve as a backdrop in hip-hop music videos. Now I get to act from home. Drop it like it's hot.
If you're a billionaire and you find one of our tenants in your home, you may ask, what's going on here?
I think you mean squats going on here.
Squats going on here.
Uncovering hidden stories, moving against the mainstream, going to all lengths to bring real news to Britain. I'm Afshin Ratansi, going underground to bring you the stories that really matter, only on RT.
It is now undeniable Russia is making a military difference in favor of Damascus in Syria's horrific civil war. But what is next? Can new facts on the ground convince Washington to rethink what is most important, regime change or fighting terrorists?
More evidence is emerging to support the most fundamental claims of the Kaiser Report theory of quantum financial fraud, about the existence of an odd world formed by a fabric of toxic derivatives where wealth does not take form until it has been stolen from a pension fund via particles of sub-debt existing in hundreds of tranches of CDOs simultaneously.
If such a small quantity of people are possessing more than half of the wealth of the world, they are not able to invest that properly in the economy. So they can buy airplanes and yachts and houses and palaces, but never they will be able to rechannel their wealth into an economic cycle that is again creating growth, jobs, and income. These enormous, unprecedented levels of inequality are economically not feasible.
Let's take a minute to analyze how the media dealt with last week's presidential date rape. I mean, debate. Not because it's still important, but because it says something about our media. The day after the debate, Bernie Sanders won the CNN focus group, the Fusion focus group, the Fox News focus group, the State Online poll, the CNN Time Online poll, the Street Online poll, the Fox 5 Online poll, the Conservative Drudge Report Online poll, the Liberal Daily Kos Online poll, and the MSNBC Online poll has Sanders with 22,000 votes and Hillary with 3,600. On the other hand, Hillary Clinton won. Oh, wait, none, not one, not one poll did she win the day after the debate. Now, I want to show you CNN the day after.
Did we have a good debate last night?
That was Hillary Clinton in Las Vegas just a little while ago. She dominated the Republican debate.
CNN was so eager to say Hillary won, they even claimed she won the Republican debates. They then reported she won the Poughkeepsie Elementary School Cook-Off, a BET Viewer's Choice Award, and WrestleMania 13, which was 18 years ago, but she won it yesterday. We are all being blatantly lied to. And it's not just CNN. The New York Times, The New Yorker, Politico, Slate, New York Magazine, and Vox all unanimously say Hillary Clinton cleaned house. How could she win if she lost every single poll?
Even though Bernie Sanders won the focus groups and Bernie Sanders won the online donations and the number of Twitter followers, a lot of professional inside the Beltway Democrats were happy.
Oh, well, then maybe instead of your screen saying Clinton dominates debate, it should say Clinton gave insiders a Woody. That commentator just candidly admitted that the power elite, the rulers of the corporate state, picked the president, not the American people. It's very rare you hear that on TV. But hold on. On Monday, CNN came out with a poll saying most people who watched think Hillary Clinton won. Oh, so after a few days of being told on loop by the media that Hillary dominated the debate, the people started to believe Hillary dominated the debate. This is not a poll of who won. It's a poll of whether pop propaganda works. Or pop propaganda, as I just said, which is a much more fun kind of propaganda. So I dug into the numbers, though, on their poll. I looked into them. The poll was 1,028 people, which includes 628 interviews among landline respondents. Who the f has a landline phone? And not only has a landline, but is answering a landline phone. If the landline rings, I usually assume it's the serial murderer. I wonder how Hillary is doing among people who only communicate with cans tied to a piece of string. Of those 1,000 adults, 19% had never heard of Bernie Sanders. Why are you talking to these people? If they're answering the landline and they've never heard of Bernie Sanders, perhaps they're not right for a survey on who won the f***ing debate. Maybe there should be some questions to weed out some of the respondents, such as, do you know where you are? Do you know how to clap your hands? Do you know what noise a piggy makes? When the phone rang, did you first answer the banana next to your bed? This survey consists entirely of people going, hello? What? Hillary won the debate! Don't forget the honey mustard! Is this Tony Danza? Okay, so 62% said Clinton won, Clinton did the best job. That number is based on 163 Democrats or independents who watched the debate. And 62% of 163 is 100 people. With a sample size that... Do you know how crazy 100 people can be? I could find 100 people who think the moon landing was fake, but Star Wars is real. In my apartment complex. And then Time came out with, they also said Hillary won while quoting the CNN poll. And they said, despite the consensus that Clinton won the debate. What consensus? What? Who are you looking at? This is a festival of corporate propaganda. You know when you see two insects doing the nasty and they're stuck together, so wherever one goes, the other kind of has to go? That's how I view corporate media. Except it's like 10 of them in an orgy. Look, my point is not that Bernie Sanders is some kind of savior. He's not. The point is that we are watching in slow motion how the corporate state manufactures consent for the next corporate president. And it's about time people gave a damn. We shift now to the farthest... I agree. I totally agree with myself. We shift now to the farthest thing from presidential politics, that thing being happiness. America has more billionaires and millionaires than ever before, so why aren't we happy? Sure, people walk around saying, well, you can't buy happiness, but most of those people probably just can't afford the really high-end happiness. You know, the P. Diddy dumps on women at the club. To find out, we sent the happiest person we know to investigate. Redacted correspondent Abby Feldman filed this report.
The pursuit of happiness. It's everyone's favorite line from the Declaration of Independence and everyone's third least favorite Will Smith movie. In our quest for fulfillment, the United States has been incredibly productive, with a GDP of nearly $17 trillion, more than any other country in the world. Yet we're consistently dropping on the list of the world's happiest countries.
The cumulative wealth of U.S. millionaire households is $50 trillion, while at the same time, 15 million American children are food insecure.
But are we seriously going to let Switzerland win? I mean, we could totally take Switzerland. We have the biggest army in the world. Their army has a bunch of crappy knives. I mean, what are they going to do? File our nails too low? Wait a second. Who is that right above us? Mexico? How is Mexico above us if they're below us? I mean, they're Mexican. I mean, next thing you know, we're going to be trying to sneak into their country. Oh, sorry, Mexico. You might want to build a wall or something. Gauging happiness based on GDP leaves out key factors such as environmental health and whether or not people feel a life purpose. Personally, I've never felt a purpose, but I did get to pet a dolphin once.
While poverty is a stressor that is alleviated as people begin to make a decent living, a new survey shows that as people make more and more money, their stress level increases and happiness decreases. 81% of people making over $75,000 a year drink alcohol, versus only 66% of people making between $30,000 and $49,000, and only 46% earning under $20,000.
They're trying to take happiness into their own hands. They're Edward 40 hands. But it's not working. While sales for sex enhancers like Viagra and Cialis are up, the number of people, especially young people, actually having sex is down. A decade ago, women were having sex on average 6.3 times per month. Now it's down to 4.8 times per month. Man, I really miss that 1.5 times.
While sales of prescription drugs are set to hit $1 trillion globally, with the U.S. as the #1 buyer, depression is on the rise.
What about yoga? There are more yoga studios in New York than any other state. Yet New York State ranked 33rd out of the 50 states on happiness.
Who ranked #1? Alaska. And Hawaii had the top spot from 2008 until 2013.
The happiest states in the United States are the two states that aren't even united. I mean, one's a paradise and the other is a tumor growing off of Canada. So if money can't buy happiness, what can? Food? The richer countries are more obese. Education?
40 million Americans already owe an average of $29,000 in student loans.
Hugs? Hugs. Yeah. In a minute, when you get off the phone. I knew you'd come around. Looks like hugging's the ticket. That is, of course, unless you hug someone who works too hard at a job they don't like, making money that doesn't fulfill them spiritually, so they lash out at your demonstration of love and kill you. Other than that, hugging should do the trick. Or we could move to Hawaii. I mean, what the f are we doing not living in Hawaii? Abby Feldman, Redacted Tonight. Though they do have those coconut bras, which I think would probably chafe a little bit on the nipples.
These are your headlines from the future. Coming up in a year, female Republicans promise to stay home on Election Day and let the men do the voting. In 2 weeks, we'll learn CNN announces Clinton winning by 60% in poll of likely voters. When asked whether they meant to poll voters instead of voters, a CNN spokesperson said, "What? That's what I said, voters." And a month from today, you'll read, in act of desperation, McDonald's giving away student loan debt forgiveness in Happy Meals. That's our show, but we have live stand-up comedy events in New York City and Washington, D.C. The New York show is on November 20th. For details, email redactedtix@gmail.com. Also, I have a web-exclusive interview with San Francisco mayoral candidate Stuart Schuffman. You can watch that only at youtube.com/redactedtonight. Good night, and keep fighting!